there's a lot of good you can do. Probably the best sexual education you can do to help your kids prepare for a lifelong healthy sexual relationship is to have a healthy sexual relationship yourself with your spouse. And those actions
Amen.
speak a lot louder than the words you can tell them. Welcome to the Get Your Marriage On podcast. I'm your host, Dan Purcell, a Christian marriage and intimacy expert and coach. I'm on a mission to help couples have the best sex and most emotionally intimate marriages possible. Our episodes cover topics you've always wondered about and are packed with practical advice designed to help you take your marriage to the next level. I vividly recall a time 2 months after our first child was born. I was laying on our bed on a Saturday afternoon, feeling like I was going to go crazy. My beautiful and hot wife fell asleep while nursing our baby right next to me on the bed. And it felt like an eternity since we had any meaningful sexual connection at that time. That's hyperbole, of course. Anyway, it just felt that way. It also felt like Mother Nature played a really cruel trick on me. Sex got us our precious son, but now our precious son was now getting in the way of sex. Looking back, I was still pretty immature and I had a lot to learn. Actually, I guess I'm still immature and have a lot to learn, hence this podcast. And I'm so glad you're on this journey with me while I figure things out. One pernicious thought that often gets in the way of our intimacy is a thought that we can put the romance and desire side of our marriage on the back burner while we raise our children. The reality is the greatest gift we can give our children right now is for us as parents to have a thriving marriage and erotic relationship that feels alive. Prioritizing desire in our relationship, within reason, has done wonders for our marriage. So today I've invited three guests onto my podcast. This trio is part of Kingdom Sexuality, where their mission is to help Christian couples see God's design for sex. They also have a great Instagram account, by the way. Elena, Kyle, and Tira each are married and have children, and we're going to have a frank conversation about practical things to keep strong desire while you're still raising young children. Another thing you can do for your marriage and for your children is to get away once in a while with your spouse. And there's no better way to do that than attend our next couples retreat in March. Registration is open and you won't want to miss it. We'll do a deep dive into your relationship and give you real practical tools to help you get out of a rut, do away with resentment, and free yourself from the frustrations and limitations you're currently facing in your marriage. We do this by building on top of your strengths and helping you see a clear path forward so that you have hope and excitement in the future of your marriage. This is all, of course, in balance with the fun activities we do on the retreat, like ATVing in the desert or canyoneering near Zion National Park, to make this an unforgettable weekend. Sign up today at getyourmarriageon.com. Tira, Kyle, and Alana, welcome to the Get Your Marriage On podcast. I think this is the first time I've had three guests on at the same time. So I'm looking forward to a party. You three are a hoot. I love your Instagram. We're going to have a great conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to ask, besides myself, who here in the last week or two has had an interruption during sex?
Oh man, I got a good one from this week.
Go, Tira.
Okay, so we have 3 kids under 7, and it was over the weekend. The kids were watching TV, and it was like, okay, mom and dad, we're gonna go up to have some quiet time, and we practice quiet time in our house, so the kids know what that means. Like, we're just in our room. I mean, they don't know that it's sex, but it's quiet time.
Right. Uh-huh.
The platform that the kids were watching that day, it didn't automatically go to the next episode. And so we knew we had about, 10 minutes or so. And so we were having our quiet time, and it was past the 10 minutes. And our oldest, all of a sudden we see a paper slip through under our door with a handwritten note that said, "It's done." Meaning the episode is done. Please come and change
Come out
it.
and turn on the next one.
Sounds cute. So we didn't get walked in on. We didn't get a knock on the door. It was just a cute little, I don't want to interrupt you. Here is the note on the door. So
So cute.
yeah.
Man, that happens so often. Now, it's a challenge to kind of keep your sex life and marriage a priority with little kids. And that's kind of the theme I want to talk about today. All 4 of us here have young children still at home.
Yeah.
My youngest is 6, so I'm a little bit ahead of the curve, a little bit, but not by much. We all have preschool age, toddlers, and even little babies, and incubating a baby also.
Yeah.
What are some of the common challenges that you think a lot of couples face with that stage of life when you have young kids?
Yeah, I think it's different. Like, because even you probably have different challenges having your kids in a slightly older stage than someone who has like a newborn baby, right?
Yeah.
There's different things. But I think the common thread would be, yeah, you're exhausted. You're giving so much of your body during the day, right? You're feeling touched out. You're feeling worn out. You're feeling like you're giving constantly. So then your children can really easily become the forefront of our brain, and we're just thinking of our kids all the time. What do our kids need? Especially like if you have like a baby, right? Are they eating enough? Are they napping enough? Did they poop? Whatever. And then you're like, oh my gosh, right, I'm married. I have a spouse here who also needs love and attention. And right, I also want to feel like for a woman, right? I want to feel like a wife versus just a mom all the time. So I think there's like a plethora of struggles that come with having kids. And I know there's so many people who often are like, hey, like how do we still feel like, a spicy couple when we're like also trying to navigate being a soccer mom or like shuttling my kids around. So yeah, I think there's a lot of different things that can cause issues and struggles. But so I'm really glad we're talking about this because I think it's really important and and hard for all of us.
And Tira, from your point of view as a mom, anything else to add to that?
Yeah, I was going to say like when, the kids are like within that first year, right? You're generally breastfeeding. You're like, so your body doesn't feel like your own. And because you're breastfeeding, your hormones are all out of whack. So your sex drive is, in the negative. And then you feel guilty because you don't have that and you want it, but it's like you mentally want it, but your body is not doing it. And so then the exhaustion of that, like not only do you sometimes have mom guilt for all the stuff that your new baby is doing, but also like wife guilt because you're not being a team or it doesn't feel like it. Like intimacy looks definitely different in that beginning season. Like thankfully that season doesn't last. But it is hard, and especially if you're a couple that keeps having kids, like Kyle and his wife, having 4 all right in a row. Like
we're done. We're done.
Bam,
That's
bam,
over.
bam.
But I mean, those would have been like hard, 5 years, 6 years of, you're either pregnant or breastfeeding, like you're
nursing. Right?
It's so, I mean, again, thankfully that season ends and there is light at the tunnel, but going through those years are definitely a challenge. Yeah.
And Kyle, how about for you? We talked about from the mom's perspective. What about from the dad's perspective or the husband's perspective? What are the challenges there?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's really easy, especially from like the women's perspective, to think and need to just serve, right? Serve the wife, take the load off of her. And I 100% agree with that. But at the same time, I think the men's feelings almost get lost in that. And it's like, I do feel like I'm like a second fiddle because I probably am.
Yeah.
And that can be actually really hard for the guy to go through. And I think it can almost be like this insensitiveness on the part of not just your own wife, but just women in general, where it's like, what are you doing? Like the mom just gave birth, the mom's breastfeeding, the mom's got all the stress of the kids. Like you just need to serve. And it's like, yeah, absolutely I do. But it doesn't mean it's easy. It doesn't mean that it's not a huge mental load on me as well. I think it's so easy to just say to the guy, serve, love. Absolutely, guys do that. But constantly being selfless in that sense, whether the husband serving the wife or the wife serving the kids and serving the husband, neither of them are easy.
Yeah.
But I do think that this is a time when, especially when it comes to intimacy, men do really need to step up. Because if you want your wife to have mental capacity for you, you need to take something off of her plate so that you can get onto the plate.
Yes, very good. Very good. So there's a lot of dynamics going on in this phase, especially with young kids feeling neglected, or it's easy for things to go to the back burner. What are some specific strategies that you've found in your own marriages that kind of keep sex and intimacy or just romance in general in the forefront during all of this when you're juggling all these things?
Yeah, I can go. I think for us, the big thing here was, so I don't know if any of your listeners have listened to our episodes, but I am very much pro scheduled sex. And I think that really helped us in these times
Mm.
because we go off more of a routine than like actually scheduling specific dates. And we made a really conscious decision to stay committed to our routine regardless of the season. So, yeah, maybe that did look like having sex sometimes when we didn't quote unquote want to, but then that's where that responsive desire kicks in.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, you know what? This is getting started. This is actually really good. Like, I'm glad I started this, even though I wasn't really in the mood for it when we actually started. So for us, the big thing was making that conscious decision to, you know what, we're going to maintain our routine. We're going to maintain our schedule as best as we can because we know that we connect really well in that way.
Mm-hmm.
It's good.
I know for me, a helpful thing is like, especially again in those early years, is your body has different erogenous zones during different times. Like when you're pregnant, they're different. When you're breastfeeding, they're different. And to just explore. So like, don't stay in the rut that you were before. Experiment. Think of yourself like, yeah, you're not going to get the body back that you did, but you have a new body to explore, and take your time with it. And yeah, definitely like having scheduled sex is good in this season too, I would agree. Especially like if you're both thinking of it ahead of time, and especially for like speaking on the wife's behalf, it does take, I feel like, a little bit more mental preparedness and just being mindful and start to think of, engage your five senses as you're coming up to your quality time. What things are making you feel good right now. Doesn't have to be sex oriented at that point, but just appreciating each thing, like what you're seeing, what you're hearing, what you're smelling, and all of that. And all of that leads to your body's response to sex when it comes later.
That's really good. Really good.
Mm-hmm.
Any advice on how to overcome, the objection of, I just feel touched out. I just don't want to be touched right now.
I would say giving space, like having there be a set. Okay, so let's say, okay, it's a Wednesday, hump day. Let's just make that a day that we have sex, for example. If you know that ahead of time, you can say like, okay, I'm feeling kind of spent a little bit. So how about before we go to this big main event thing, we just take a little bit of time and like you can tuck the kids or you can just go read your book or whatever. I'm going to go have a bath or like, right. So like it gives the woman, say if it's the woman who's feeling touched out, some space or time to like, hey, I'm just going to quickly go for a walk, put on some lingerie and like spiff up a bit. Like, because if you've been home in your leggings all day, like you just like, I don't really feel cute. So doing something specifically to make you feel more like you, more like a wife, it just kind of gets you in that space where you can get excited about it. Because if you're feeling, I don't really know if I'm feeling like this. Okay, but what do I need? What would be helpful for me in this moment? And I think it's different for every person.
Yeah.
But to really be aware of yourself and having that conversation with your spouse and be like, hey, this is kind of what I'm feeling. So would you be able to just give me a little bit of time to myself where I can feel like myself, have a little bit of space. No one's touching me. No one's nagging at me. And then I'm ready to then engage in whatever it is that we're going to do.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
I think this is where husbands can really step up too. Like husbands, like Alana just said, like the best way to get your expectations met is to ask for it. But husbands, if you want to take that one step further, initiate that. You
Yes.
say to your wife, hey babe, you know what? Tonight I got bedtime. You go for a walk, you go to Starbucks, you go have a bath, you go do whatever. I'll take this by myself tonight. You come home, whenever you want, whenever you're ready. And I think getting what you want without having to ask for it means so much more than having to ask for it. So husbands, if you really want to have yourself feel like a priority to your wife, again, make that space for her and initiate these things because it will come across much more impactful than if she has to ask
Totally.
for it. Because
Oh, yeah.
hopefully you guys are in tune with each other and like, okay, if you're talking throughout the day, chances are what you're coming home to at some point. So, don't be dumb. Figure it out. You be smart about it and come home and initiate that.
And I would also add into, I know like it can be sometimes from the wife's perspective, when the husband offers to do something, then in the back of your mind, you go, oh, great, he's just wanting sex.
Yes.
And
Oftentimes he does.
yeah. And I mean, and to really check your thoughts in that moment of like, okay,
Mhm.
my husband isn't just wanting sex, he's wanting to connect with me. And what am I going to choose? Am I going to choose us as a partnership and connection, or am I going to choose to be, I don't want to say selfish, but choose not connecting and more the resentment and just like, okay, see what he is doing for you and accept it and fully see it out of love and that it's connection with you. And you want to be a team together. And if you're having a hard time with that, pray. Like when hubby does whatever he's doing, and yeah, you have those thoughts, go like, God, help me to want to connect. Help me to, like, I don't want to think these negative thoughts. I want to connect. And again, those will allow your body to get into that response again when it comes time for sex.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, even if he is doing those things because he wants sex, part of my thought is like, who cares? Like you're getting the thing that is going to be great, right? You're going to get this quiet time, and chances are that if he does this and he sees like, okay, I gave my wife this space, she came back, she was in a great mood, we had amazing sex. It might click in his brain like, okay, I should probably do this more often. So it might start from a place of selfishness, but it could easily transition to a place of selflessness.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I just want to add a word of caution too. I work with a lot of men, and a lot of men have what we call covert contracts. It's this idea that, again, they had that if I do X, Y, or Z, she
Right.
will then be turned on and we're going to have this result. But it's not spoken. It's not something they agree on ahead of time.
Yeah.
It's covert.
Yeah.
And when things don't pan out, like she's like, oh, thank you for putting the kids to bed. Thank you for helping them with their homework. Thanks for doing the laundry. I'm just so grateful for that. Now I can go to sleep. Now, peace of mind. Like, and she's
Right.
so grateful for that. And he's like tearing his heart. No, wait, no, you don't. Wait, you're not supposed to be tired and go to sleep now. You're supposed to be turned on. And she's
Yeah.
not turned on. And he's upset by that. So he'll pout or stonewall or withdraw. And that just sets up a really ugly cycle
Yeah,
in this
totally.
relationship. So
That's a really good point, Dan.
Mhm.
for the husbands, you got to really check your motives on this. Like,
100%.
And I would say communicate too, right? Like I know for us, there have been times, where we haven't connected in a long time. And yeah, my husband will do this, like something to take off the load. And he goes, I'd really like to have time with you tonight. And I understand that. And then, but it also gives, or he'll say, like, go have time to yourself and go put something on that you really like, that you feel good in,
Mhm.
and I'm like, okay, yep.
Mhm.
So he wants this. Or even at the beginning of the day, we'll say it to each other of like, okay, this is what our expectation is for tonight. And be more like, as Kyle and his wife always like to say, like, be explicit in your communication. Say what you want.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that, Tira. And what we're talking about here is mindset, right?
Mhm.
And I heard one woman describe what helped her get over feeling touched out is like, wait a minute. I've been giving all day long as a mom. This is my turn to receive. This is my turn to be
I like that.
pampered.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to sit back and be pampered. And
Mhm.
I'm going to tell him exactly what I want him to do to me.
Yeah.
Like, and this is my chance to be pampered. She doesn't feel like she owes him anything.
Yeah.
She doesn't feel like it's for him. She's like, no, I'm going into this. It's for me to feel good for once.
Yeah.
I'm going to get a massage. I'm going to get touched the way I know I like to be touched. And it totally changed it for her. Like, why wouldn't I want that?
Yeah,
This is my chance to
exactly.
finally receive and connect in the process. So,
Yeah.
That reminds me of in the book Come As You Are, she talks a lot about context. And what you were just saying, like, okay, the context of being touched throughout the day is not the same way that you're going to be touched by your husband.
Mhm.
So if you, like you said, Dan, if you can make that mindset shift to this is a good touch, this is a touch for me touch,
Yeah.
I think that's a really good point.
Yeah.
Mhm.
the next common complaint is tired. I am tired.
Mm.
I want to know your thoughts. How do you work through that mindset wise?
Change the time of day.
Yeah.
That's a
Don't-
good practical answer. Yeah.
Yeah, don't wait till the end of the day, right? Wake up an extra 20 minutes early or however much time you need in the morning. Or if it's a weekend and your kids nap in the afternoon, take advantage. But don't wait until the end of the day when you've got no
Yeah.
energy left. Do it earlier when you still have energy.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Yeah, I'd say like when
Yeah.
you feel that like slight inkling of like, oh, my spouse is attractive, like just that like spark, use it. Don't waste it. Just go like, okay, now's the time. Where's the quickest
Yeah.
spot we can go? Just do it then. Like, yeah.
Because that feeling will come and go
forgot
too
how
quick.
hot
You
you
got to
were.
act on it while you have it.
Yeah, it was cute. I had a friend, she was saying like when she would in the morning, if she heard her husband use his like electric toothbrush, she knew that they were going to have morning sex. Like it was always her cue. Like if he was like, if she could hear it in the morning, she's like, oh, okay, cool. And like that was like a cue that they had. It was just
Uh-huh.
like you could hear the electric toothbrush going. And so he
Uh-huh.
like, she knew that he was brushing his teeth so that, you know, no bad morning breath and all that good stuff. But I
That's
think otherwise,
hilarious.
like thinking of just like the mindset part, like I remember when I was feeling like that, feeling tired, feeling exhausted. We were in a season where we had moved and, you know, my oldest, he was like small and not sleeping through the night. And so, yeah, you're feeling tired. You're feeling there's so much change. And I was telling a friend and I was like, oh my goodness, yeah, it's been like a long time since we've, you know, been intimate just because of all these things like XYZ. And she's like, but sex is so fun. Like, why aren't you wanting to do that right now? If it's a fun thing you get to do with your spouse, why wouldn't you want that?
Uh-huh.
And it was like a kick in the pants for me to be like, oh my goodness, I've kind of been thinking about it wrong.
Mhm.
And it was a really helpful way for me to think about it instead of like oh, I'm too tired. Like, I just want to roll over and whatever. You're like, no, this is something that I have this incredible, you know, ability to do with my spouse. No one else gets to do this with them. And so why wouldn't I want to, you know, in the grand scheme of things, not that you're like trying to talk yourself into it, but like, how long is this going to take in the grand scheme? Like if you're like right before bed, is this going to be like an hour that you're staying awake? Probably not. Like, I don't know, maybe good for you, but you know, but really you're like, no, this is something that I get to do. And then you think in the grand scheme of things, if you're laying those foundations now, when it is hard in these earlier years, you're just setting yourself up for more success in the future.
Yeah.
When, things are busy, kids are older, there's always going to be an excuse to not want to. There's always going to be something come up that will keep you from like wanting to. Oh, I'm kind of feeling, you know, whatever. And either way, like spouse, like husband or wife, there's always going to be kind of these lingering things that want to hold you back. But when you're like, no, like this is a beautiful gift that I get to do with my spouse, like what a treasure. And I think that can be a really helpful way to change your mindset from, oh, I'm kind of too tired to, no, like let's do it. And it will be fun. It'll be pleasurable. It's like, this is the way God intended it to be. Like, let's just do it and connect. And then your marriage will also, you know, you'll feel that close connection because you can feel that something's off if you're not having sex, right?
Mhm.
And so what a great way to have that teamship as parents if you feel more connected after having sex, right? So I think all in all, there's a lot of little things you can just do for your mindset.
Right.
And if anyone is listening right now that doesn't have kids, I think what Alana said is super important. If you can make that mindset shift before kids and not during kids, it'll make that postpartum period or that period of having kids so much easier. I think that was a big thing for my wife and I is we had developed this really good routine and we were just able to keep it going through kids. But yeah, Alana, what you said is huge. If you can make that mindset shift before kids, you will be so much better off when they come.
Mm-hmm.
What you're saying assumes that you're having good sex worth having. And I think that's important for couples to recognize. There are many marriages where she is actually, let's just do stereotypes, where he might be the higher desire spouse, she's the lower desire spouse. He wants to have sex. She doesn't because the sex that's being offered, frankly, isn't that great of a.
Mm-hmm.
It's very centered on him, or it's very too quick, or whatever it might be. It's very intercourse specific, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So as a couple, you do need to figure out what is good sex.
Yes.
And so it's sex worth saying, yeah, that sex is so good, I'd be crazy to turn that down. Like,
It totally changes
Yes.
how you're thinking about it. Yeah.
Yes. So have
Completely.
good sex. And if you're not having good sex, figure out how to make your sex better so you don't want to turn it down.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever had the situation where it's bedtime, it's late at night, and you're tired, and you may say, no, I'm not in the mood for sex, but then you get a phone call or a knock at the door, and it's an old friend you haven't talked to in a long time, and all of a sudden you have the energy to talk to that friend for a while, right? You're excited to see them and have a Can you relate to that? Wait, I thought you were tired.
Right.
Somehow you find the energy for it. How
Mm.
can people use that as a tool to help them when they're tired with kids to find the energy to connect with their spouse?
I know for myself, I get the zoomies like before bed. Like I get that weird wiry energy, and Jeff just like gets so annoyed with it. He's like so done. He's like, he's in the bed, he'll roll over and he's like tired. He's like ready for bed. But I get like, I want to be funny. I want to like, be goofy. I want to talk about everything. And he's like, no, I'm done. And so I think what will be helpful if you're like, okay, I'm kind of too tired to this, but I maybe wouldn't be tired to do this, would be to just have some kind of fun in general. Like, how can we in this moment make this
Fun.
something that gives us energy and makes it fun? Yeah. So whether it's like, I don't know, you tickle each other or you do something goofy, like just try and be silly about it. Or I think then that would kind of spark up the energy in both of you to be like, no, like we still got something in us. Like, let's go. Yeah. So that would be my advice.
That's good. That's a good pick-me-up.
I think it's important, at least for us. It's, am I physically exhausted or am I mentally exhausted? And so sometimes my wife will come to bed mentally exhausted, and all she needs is she just needs to offload everything in her mind. And so I'm just there to just listen. And we'll go to bed and we will lay there and we'll have 30, 45, an hour of pillow talk. And then you can see, like, I'll know when she's done because she stopped talking, but you'll just see like
relief
change in her. Yeah. And she's like, oh, okay, I'm done. And then it's like, okay, I have this energy now because I've offloaded all this mental stuff and my mental exhaustion is gone. And I never had physical exhaustion. I got the energy to go. So let's go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think just allowing her that space to offload that mental, so that you can offload the stuff on her mental plate so you can get onto that mental plate.
Sounds like the pensive in Harry Potter. You're her pensive, like offloading the memories.
Not gonna lie, never watched any Harry Potter or
okay. I think it's important to talk a little bit more about the quality of the sex you're having, especially with little kids. Sometimes when you have little kids and you're like, I only have 5 minutes, I only have 10 minutes, sex turns into just a series of quickies, and you kind of may be missing some of the grander scheme of things. And maybe that's okay at your phase or stage of life, but sometimes you might be, craving something a little more, something that feels more alive, something with a little more depth. What do you say to your spouse if, let's say, you've had a long day with the kids and he or she says, can we just have 5 minutes? I mean, it only takes 5 minutes. Like, can you just undress for 5 minutes?
I mean, if you want it to be this like hour-long thing where you're like, no, I want this to be more of like the full meal deal than just a quickie, then you could be like, hey, can we just actually reschedule to when we have some more time to actually enjoy our time together and really soak in this moment together instead of just like quickly just trying to get her done. Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Go feed the kids dinner. But I think that requires a lot of conversation to know how your spouse takes a rejection, or like, and then rescheduling is not necessarily rejection, but it can be like lots of people like use that as an excuse to not have sex. Like, oh, let's just do it tomorrow, and tomorrow never comes, right?
Right.
So I think if you're intentional about, no, I really, really want to connect with you, but I'd love for it to be more of something that we can really enjoy and like really like explore our bodies and try new things and do a different position than we always do, or whatever it is. And then be intentional about making time for it. And maybe that means sending the kids to grandma's house, or, like, hey, we're getting a babysitter and me and you are going to go to a hotel for a couple hours or something. It requires potentially planning on your part.
And some money too.
And money, totally.
And budgeting and everything.
Yeah.
But will be extremely worthwhile, and your marriage will benefit from it 1,000%.
Yes. Yeah.
And the other thing too, I mean, you don't
I think
necessarily,
on the opposite, go ahead.
just quickly, like you don't even need to necessarily reschedule that. You could even just say, sure, yeah, let's do a quick one tonight, but I'm just so you know, I'm really wanting more.
Yes.
How can we do it? And then follow the same steps.
I think on the other end of what Alana was saying is like, make your quickies good. Because I think quickies can be very guy focused, especially if the woman takes a lot longer to reach orgasm.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where something like a toy can come in and it really help the wife get there quicker so that you're both experiencing, maximum pleasure during a quickie when you do only have 5, 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah, you can adapt there. That's really good.
That's good.
All right, we've talked about how to connect sexually. What about some non-sexual ways couples can do better at staying connected during this stage of life?
There's this guy I know, he made this app. It's called Just Between Us. It's really good.
I've heard of it. I think it's a great app.
Yeah. Everyone should get it. If you're listening, you should go download it right now.
Uh-huh.
But for real, I would say use
Uh-huh.
technology, right? Technology is at a point where it has never been this good.
Mhm.
And I think we need to use that to our advantage. You have apps like Just Between Us. You have all these different things, FaceTime, text messages, emojis, all these different things that you can use in creative ways to make it fun or to make the day foreplay when you're not together so that when you come home, it's like, yeah, I'm already warmed up because we've been having these spicy conversations or I saw a picture or whatever it is. And that can be another way you can get in the mood during the day, right? When it's kids and all this stuff, it's kids, but then it's like, oh, what did he just say to me? Okay, yeah, I'm excited for that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think just touch throughout the day. Like if you're home or, like my husband works from home. So like, yeah, if our kids are napping at the same time, cool. We can just run to the bedroom, but it doesn't work for people who don't work from home.
Mhm.
But I think even like in the morning, you're having your coffee. So you sit together on the couch, like something as simple as that.
Yeah.
You're saying goodbye. So you linger and you have a quick makeout sesh instead of just a peck on the, like, there's so many tiny things I think that can just help increase that connection and like emotional connection where you feel seen and you feel valued because someone is reaching out and doing an extra thing. Like, oh, I'm making dinner, but he comes and puts his hand on the small of my back. Like something so simple, but you're like, oh my goodness, you see me doing this and you're here. So like, I think little things like that, but knowing your spouse's love language is probably huge because if someone's like, nah, he's touching me, who cares? Like, but if you're like, no, he like intentionally told me how much he appreciated this, or he took out the garbage without me even asking, or he made the bed, things like that where you're like, oh my goodness, like that was amazing. Love that. But knowing your spouse to know what's going to work for them is probably going to be most important.
Mhm.
I'd also
Good.
say we could also plug in our own subscription service too with our
Mhm.
Unite and Ignite, which is basically just like a daily prompt of somehow that you can connect. And we have like a little spicy version after that, but doing something intentional like that.
What are some examples of your prompts?
Today's was write a love note, right? It was like leave a love note, leave a little like sticky note somewhere. Or like the other day it was text your spouse something sweet. And there's like, the spicy version is like, maybe make it a spicy text for later on or whatever. Or like when we did September's theme was fun. And so it was like, do a paper airplane contest or hide and go seek, random things that you wouldn't think to do in the day to day, but can actually like really increase connection and make you feel really seen and valued and add that fun or connection where you're maybe feeling like a little bit lost in it.
Yeah.
So every month is a different theme, which makes it really great. So that it's not just the same thing every time because not every person needs the same thing to connect to their spouse.
Yeah.
If you think about it, childbirth is absolutely amazing. Like a woman's body has this capacity to create another human being is absolutely mind-boggling. Yet for a lot of women, they compare their post-baby body with their pre-baby body, and they have a lot of insecurity about how they are sexually or in intimate situations.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big block for a lot of couples to enjoy sexual intimacy after children.
Totally.
Any advice that you'd give to wives, or maybe from a wife's perspective and again from a husband's perspective, on how to help people through that?
For the wife, I think what's helpful is to first of all acknowledge that yes, this is an incredible thing and like what a beautiful opportunity it was and is or whatever to grow a human. So yeah, maybe you have stretch marks, maybe things are saggy or maybe things have grown and shifted and whatever.
Uh-huh.
But to ultimately realize that your body did something like a miracle, like it's an incredible gift. Like I think that's something that can really help to shift that mindset of like, oh no, like things are saggy now, that sucks. But it's like, no, oh my goodness. Sure, right now things aren't maybe what they were, but what an awesome thing and what a beautiful baby. Like I think there's so many other ways you can kind of shift it to be like, oh, poor me, to be like, look what I did. Like I am the best. That is amazing. Go me. And another thing that was helpful for me, and so this is kind of more of maybe a guy, what a husband should do, but my husband was really intentional about one, like pumping my chest and being like, that was amazing. Like, I can't believe you did that. Like, your body is incredible. And then also complimenting my body. And I found it like huge. And it was like in that season where you can't even have sex anyway. So he's not doing it just to get some, because you can't even like that, those 6 weeks afterwards, right?
Uh-huh.
But he was just really intentional about pouring into me and making me feel beautiful the way I was, not mentioning how things were or whatever, but just like, oh my goodness, look at this. This is where you were before. This is where you are now. Like, this is amazing. And so I think the focus needs to be shifted. And whether that's, you need to have a conversation and be like, hey, I'm feeling a little bit insecure about XYZ. How can we be intentional about making this work right now? And what are some ways you think you could pour into me? Or I kind of need you to just, give me some compliments. Like if your spouse isn't doing those things, you might just have to a degree, let them know what you need and be explicit about that. So those are my thoughts.
Or how to get it for yourself instead of depending on someone
Totally,
to get it for you.
totally.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, for sure. And like same with like the taking time to feel like you and feel beautiful and take a second to do your hair or put your face on if it's been like weeks since you
Uh-huh.
got out of your sweatpants. Like there's little things that can just kind of help you feel more confident in yourself
Right.
without your spouse doing anything.
And Kyle, I want to hear what you want to say too, but before we go to you, the media preys on our insecurities, especially in the consumer economy. So the more insecure we have, we tend to buy a lot of money for those things. Hence, there's a lot of advertisements. And like you might be scrolling through Instagram or whatever. It's like, this is a bikini shot. And you're like, hey, she just had a baby a year ago and look at her body. It's nothing like mine. And so all of a sudden, it's that comparison that kind of
Totally.
eats away. Or it's commercial, like you should feel this. Like you should be back to a size 2. Like, I don't know, whatever it was. Like it's not, you got to pay attention to media and how it's preying on your insecurities.
Totally.
There's billions of dollars in advertising that really is designed to make you feel bad, so you buy their products.
Right?
Yeah.
Make you feel like
And
garbage.
Photoshop.
Yeah, exactly.
Worst.
I think from the husband's perspective, like what Alana was saying was huge. Like, make sure that you're complimenting your wife. Make sure that you make her feel beautiful with your words and your actions. And pick out specific things. Don't just say, oh, you're so beautiful. Like, oh, I love your whatever. I love your smile. I love pick something. Make it specific. So it's not just, oh, I'm saying you're beautiful. I complimented you. Like, be specific, be intentional. And then I think from the wife's perspective, choose to believe him. Your spouse is not a malicious person. If your husband tells you you're beautiful, choose to believe that, because ultimately his opinion is the only one that matters if you're beautiful or not, right? Other than your own. But yeah, definitely choose to believe him. I think that's something that women have a hard time doing. It's accepting compliments, especially when they have this view of themselves that is not what their husband is seeing.
One more thing I want to add for husbands is your wife is more than just a body. I used to compliment my wife how much I love her breasts, because I do. I think her breasts are beautiful. But I'd say that a lot. And to the point where, is she made up of body parts? And I like this body part and that body part. Are those the only compliments she's getting from me? And I realized I needed to change course, because my wife is so much more than just a body. Body's not just decoration. I like my wife for who she is. It's her soul. It's her spirit. Without the spirit animating her body, she's just an empty shell, right? It's her. It's who she is in her embodied form is what I love. So that's been a course correction for me. It's like, no, I love you for who you are deep down inside. And yes, I like your body too, but it's you who I really like.
Yeah, I love that.
I think a lot of couples they say, no, we can't have sex because the kids might hear us. No, we can't have sex because the kids are up. And so then they diminish the window of possibility to like almost impossible. They're going to be waiting until they're empty nesters before they actually have a relationship. what's advice for couples like that? What's a better mindset on that challenge?
One thing is to really educate yourself on, okay, what age are my kids at right now? And what is appropriate sexual conversation to have with them if they do walk in? Like, I think the biggest thing for my wife and I is we did a course. We did the birds and bees course, and we left that course with so much confidence as to how to talk about sex in a healthy way, at an age appropriate way. So if they do walk in, it's an opportunity, right? Maybe not right in that moment, but it's like, hey, mom and dad are busy right now. We'll be out in 2 minutes and then we'll talk to you. So again, mindset shift, right? Not this massive negative thing. Oh my gosh, what are we going to do? No, okay. Now you've got an opportunity to talk to your kids about sex. And then the other side of the mindset shift is, who cares, right? Honestly, why does it matter, right? It's either an opportunity to talk about sex or it's a funny story. Like, have a little bit of a sense of humor about it, because laughing is a very healthy thing in marriage.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Especially when the kids are like little. I feel like it's the same as when they're newborn. If they're in their crib, they're fed, they're loved, they've had enough sleep, they're not sick. Like, find something that they like to do and contain them and go have your fun. Like, they're going to be okay. If the baby is crying, they're going to be okay for that. I mean, maybe don't make that one, the hour-long session, but if you need to turn off the monitor, go ahead. As long as they're in a safe place and they're taken care of, it's going to be okay. They're not going to be traumatized from that sort of thing. It'd be better for you to be a happy, good marriage. That will have a better effect on the kid than having one or two not taken care of moments. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Right.
And if you can, lock your door.
Yeah.
Like, great. So there's not an opportunity for a little person to just come wandering in whenever they feel like it.
Mhm.
Like, you'll have some moments in advance. I know for us, once we had the video monitor set up on my son, he was like watching something, and we had it in the bed with us. And all of a sudden I look, I'm like, oh my goodness, he's gone. Like, we can't find, like, he's like, where is he? And then we hear him coming down the hallway. And you're like, oh, okay. So like, that was something that we don't have locks, or some of our house doors don't even have doorknobs right now. We are in a renovation kind of life. But like, it's just another simple way to, like, okay, you can see them, where they are. Like, if you can just set up a little, like, move the monitor so you can see where they are, just to give yourself some peace of mind. If it's like a real stressor for you, that would probably be helpful.
Good. And probably part of it too is just the mindset of, you know what? It's probably okay that they know that mom and dad have sex. With the couples I coach, a lot of times I ask them, what was your parents' sexual relationship like? What do you gather it was like? And some of them, like, you know what, honestly, they had 4 kids, so they probably had sex only 4 times.
Wow.
And that's their impression. And other couples I talked to, like, they're very affectionate. They'd always kiss and hug in front of us kids. They'd spend time in their bedroom. The door was locked. I didn't know what they were doing in there, but now as an adult, I look back and go, they probably really enjoyed their time together. And that made a positive impact on them. So there's a lot of good you can do. Probably the best sexual education you can do to help your kids prepare for a lifelong, healthy sexual relationship is to have a healthy sexual relationship yourself with your spouse. And those actions speak a lot louder than the words you can tell them.
Totally. Love that.
So as we wrap this up, what does it look like in your marriages where you're trying to be really selfless to kind of keep the intimacy and spark alive in your relationship? Any of you have a story that illustrates that?
Yeah, I can share. So there was a time, I think we had just had our first, and we were, I was out with some friends, and my wife had just basically said, like, go do something, go hang out with the guys, go whatever you want to do, just go do something. Okay, sweet. So I went out, and I remember coming home, thinking, okay, I'm going to just, I'm not going to initiate anything tonight. She did this amazing thing for me by letting me go out. And I came home, and she was laying in bed. She had full lingerie on, and she basically did like a DIY version of your sheets and ladders, Dan.
Uh-huh.
And we stayed up for like another 2 hours playing sex games. And I was like, wow, like, she lets me go out. I come home with this like no sex mentality, and it's like completely the opposite. And I was like, wow, like, in this stage where we just had our first kid, things are like all new to us, like just this massive act of selflessness was like, holy crap. Like I feel so desired, so pursued, so wanted, so romanced. And it was like, I mean, it's been 7 years now since then. And it's probably like one of the most prominent memories I have because it was just this massive act of selflessness.
It was so meaningful. Yes.
Totally.
Yeah. Anyone else you want to add on to that?
I can't think of like a one big grand thing, but it's just those small moments. Like my husband's really great at seeing when the day has been really full and being like, hey, okay, I'm taking the kids with me. We're going to the dump. Like giving me space to feel like me and to have some time to do whatever it is that I need to do or catch up on or want to do. And it's just like, you see him, one, as a father, which is a beautiful thing. Like, it's just like this treasure to watch the man you marry also be an incredible father to your children. Who doesn't want that? And then you also get space to feel, okay, who am I? What do I want to do? What interests me right now? Because I think in parenthood, no matter where you are in it, you can get really bogged down and lose a bit of who you are. And your identity gets kind of muddled in, and as it should, to a degree, into these tiny humans. And totally, like, it's where you are. Like, there's no way around it. But to have glimmers of, okay, who am I just outside of a mom or a dad in this time? Like, what else do I like to do? What kind of hobbies do I want to have right now? And so I think just giving a little bit of freedom to have those moments, like, has always been a treasure of mine. And then I can kind of feel refreshed. And it doesn't even, it's like half an hour, but I'm like, cool. Like, that was all I needed. And it just makes you feel so fresh and new.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think that lends itself to how connected are you outside of the bedroom? How in tune are you with each other outside of the bedroom? Because it's going to lead to such a difference inside of the bedroom. Like an example, last week, our church did a parent talk where they picked a topic of parenting and they brought in some pastor who was an expert on that topic. And my wife and I lead a community group. We canceled community group. We told community group, hey, like, we don't want to host group. We want everyone to go to this talk. And I knew my wife was in the middle of a super busy season of work. She's a photographer, so she had tons of photo shoots to edit. And I said to her, hey, do you want to come to this thing, or do you just want me to go and you can stay home and have a night to yourself to just get work done? Where I usually would be like, no, we're going to this together because we do things together. We lead this group together. But having the awareness of, she really wants to get caught up on work. This is, 2-3 hours where she can get this done. And then and then the next night I came home, she didn't even take out her laptop. She's just like, hey, I want to just spend the night with you. And I wasn't expecting that. I did it completely with no expectation, but it was just this give and take because we're connected. We know how each other's doing, and just doing these little selfless things that Alana was talking about, and just being in tune enough to see the need in your spouse and just follow through on it.
Yeah. I was going to say one thing that my husband does that I love so much is he always compliments how I look all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter what I'm doing, and it's not just like, oh, you're so beautiful. Like, he intentionally picks something different to say.
It's genuine.
It's genuine,
too.
yeah. And it always makes me feel so attractive, and loved and seen. And it's not, and it's all throughout the day. It's not just at the end when you want something. Yeah. Like, it's just and so, yeah, I think for me too, it's the little things that really help in this season of young kids. Yeah.
Good. If people want to reach out to you and learn more about what you do, what's the best way for them to find you?
Kingdom Sexuality. If you search us on Instagram, you will find us there. We're pretty active on that there place. KingdomSexualityMinistry.com. You can see all of our resources and things there. If you're interested in United Ignite, you can find that there as well. Where else? YouTube.
And anywhere you get your podcasts.
Yeah, anywhere you listen to podcasts, you'll find us. Put out weekly episodes. Yeah, it's great.
Very good. Great.
Thanks for having us, Dan.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you're interested in accelerating growth in your marriage, either sexually, emotionally, or spiritually, I want to invite you to work with me in my affordable coaching program called Next Level. More information about Next Level and my fun and sexy apps for couples are available at getyourmarriageon.com. Please also don't forget to subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss a single episode. And be sure to tell your married friends. I promise, they will thank you for life. Now go get your marriage on.